I got some audio in here. Hopefully. You know what? I'ma just, I see you in there in the chat, nice ass podcast stopping in. Special shouts. Everybody stopping in to talk to your boy real quick. Let me go ahead and do we have any sound now? Give me a thumbs up in the chat. Thank you there. There we go. Let me get to these dudes talking this shit over here, baby. Let me tell you why I had to jump on here real quick. There is a whole hearing going on. Remember I was telling y'all about mass deportation a while ago? Okay. Well, they decided that they're going to debate on it, and I saw it was on, and I wanted to talk about it in real time with y'all. Okay? So thanks for stopping in PurgeTheBS on a wonderful day. We are going to get right into this. If you are not a member of the channel or a subscriber to the channel, please go ahead and subscribe right now so you can jump up into the chat. So let's see what we got going here. They talking already. That's why I had to jump on with them.
Could you explain that?
Well, right now, ICE
I hate this.
only
Should
has
be so low.
500 officers in the entire agency, and less than 1,000 are assigned to fugitive operations, whose job it is to go out into the community and arrest people. But because the overwhelming majority of undocumented immigrants have no interaction with the criminal justice system, they have no criminal offenses, that means that to arrest them would require going out into the community, finding them, and rounding them up. And in order to do that would require an enormous investment in personnel, far beyond any law enforcement operation ever conducted in the United States history.
So it'd be hard work.
If you're determined to remove Mr. Toure, the prosecutor from Philadelphia, from America, and send him back to Sierra Leone or someplace like that, you're talking about massive amounts of money. If we are to focus on the truly dangerous people in this country, to make sure that they are removed and should be, that is a lesser amount, for sure.
That's right.
So if we just focus on dangerous people, it costs less. All right, I get it, man. Let's talk about it.
Which has already been cited by several members here. That is looking at about 1.2% or less of people who have any sort of serious violent offense. And of course, the resources involved there would be much smaller than trying to deport 13 million people.
Making a priority the dangerous people who are in this country or those who are here illegally and could be dangerous certainly is a much different assignment than saying massive deportations.
I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. We don't need the whole army to deal with all this, you know. But that's what they're going to say is like they're going to deploy the whole military, all the branches upon the people of the land in the effort to take all of the immigrants out or illegal immigrants. But I don't really see that from what I've read.
Successful life. You have much to be proud of. During the 4 years of the Trump administration.
Why can't this thing be louder?
Anybody suggest you should be deported?
Thank you, Senator, for the question. No.
Nobody suggested he be deported. Okay. And that guy, if you didn't see it, he was here from Sierra Leone when he was a kid, like a baby. He's a DACA person.
Have a final order of removal. Do you support them leaving?
Senator, I'm a prosecutor.
No, I didn't ask you if you're a prosecutor.
There we go.
Them leaving.
I support people that have committed serious crimes.
Do you support the people who have gone through the system, been denied, had their day in court, final order removal? Do you support them leaving?
If you have
as a prosecutor, as a rule of law person.
If you have committed a serious crime in this country,
that's not the question. So.
Well, that kind of was the question, but all right, he was finally going to answer the shit. Thanks a lot, Mr. Lindsey Graham.
No. How many people want to come to America that are non-criminals? Probably hundreds of millions, and I understand why. It's a great country. So my point is, if you're not willing to say that we're going to deport you after you've had your full day in court, you're facing a final order of deportation, we're going to incentivize people to come forever. Mr. Melnick, is that right? How many people did Ronald Reagan provide amnesty to?
Estimates are roughly 2.7 to 3 million.
How many illegal immigrants are in the country today?
I said roughly 13 million, although we
Okay,
don't know the exact
I would say that
estimates.
the last thing we want to do is give amnesty to people here now because we'll be overrun. Mr. Arthur,
Okay.
would you describe the last 4 years as mass illegal immigration coming to our borders?
I believe that that's fair characterization, Senator.
Does
This dude's
anybody
name is
disagree
Art
that the
Arthur.
last 4 years
His parents
has
need to
resulted in
be brought in
mass
front of Congress
illegal
and they need to
immigration
discuss
directed
that.
toward America?
His name is Art Arthur.
Because if this is not mass, what the hell would be? Now, how do you answer mass illegal immigration? You start enforcing the laws, Ms. Moran said, and you start sending people back who've had their day in court. You can't answer the question, and I respect you. You've been able to take the opportunity to make something of yourself, but we're passing on just constant disorder. If you can't say you should be deported after you've had a full hearing, everything been available to,
Yeah,
and
I mean, he's
lose,
saying what he's
and it's
saying
hard
on
to
that.
say
That
you need to
makes
go.
sense, though.
We don't have an immigration system, General. How many people have been deployed to the border by governors to assist in border security from the National Guard?
Sir, I don't have that information.
Okay, there's thousands. Is that illegal use of the National Guard?
It is not the illegal use of the National
It's legal, right?
Guard. That is correct.
Yeah, I agree with you there. What's the largest cause of death in America for young people? Does anybody know? Mr. Arthur?
Drug poisoning overdose deaths.
Coming from a drug called fentanyl?
That is correct,
Mainly.
sir.
Okay, where does that drug come from?
That drug, reports indicate that it's made from precursors that come from the People's Republic of China, assembled in Mexico, and largely smuggled into the United States over the Southwest.
General Manner, do you consider illegal immigration a national security problem?
I believe that it is something that ICE and CBT needs to address.
No, I ask you, is it a national security problem?
I think it's a concern, yes.
Okay, I do too. And they're the highest number of people on the terrorist watch list in our country today. At the end of the day, the number of people being killed in America by drug poisoning is coming from labs and cartels in Mexico. General Manner, does the president have the authority to attack a drug lab in Mexico that's making fentanyl to kill American citizens?
I am not a legal expert, Senator, and I
right.
do not know.
So here's what I would say. I think
Well,
we
the
need to be
question was, does he
tough.
have the authority? I would say, yeah. He
Compassionate,
could blow up something
but
if he wants to. That's what the president can
If you're
do.
trying
People
to
could not
poison
like it,
America,
though.
You're a drug cartel, your days are numbered.
Mm-hmm.
We're coming after you, hopefully working with Mexico.
Gonna get you.
If you've had your full day in court and you lost, it's time for you to go and try to do it right.
Hey, for the rest of us, if we lose
have
in
to
court, we
break
go to
this
jail. I'm
endless
just
cycle
saying.
of having policies that entice people to come to our country illegally, because that is the lack, we're losing sovereignty and losing control over our nation. There are too many people.
Yeah, they
being
don't just
hurt
they
with
don't
this
just
out-of-control
tell you,
system.
you know,
So
here's
how
your
do you
sentence, and
deal
then
with
let you go
mass
home and walk around until
illegal immigration?
you do something
Start
else.
with mass
You go to jail
deportation of people who shouldn't be
for
here.
American citizens.
Mr. Toure,
I'm
I
just saying.
think President Trump was pretty clear about DACA. But what do we tell the kids who've been brought here in the last year who are 7 years old? Do you ever break this chain? So I'm hoping, Mr. Chairman, that once we regain control of our border and try to shut down the poisoning of America, we can have a logical, rational
Poisoning of
discussion about
America.
Dreamers and others. But until we control that border, until we get control over the crime coming into this country, into the poisoning of America, that discussion cannot happen. I've worked with you and others for really decades to fix a broken immigration system. The way the Biden administration's handled this border problem has created a nightmare for our country. And there's a reason 70% of the people want deportations. It's not because they're mean. They want to bring order to
Not
chaos.
because they're mean.
Senator Klobuchar?
Thank you very much.
Not
Mr.
because they're
Chairman. Thank you for having
mean.
this hearing, and I know that you've worked with Senator Graham in the past on the Dreamers issue, and I hope that work continues. And I would start with what you said, Mr. Arthur, just about how we don't know yet how this is going to come down. And I do actually appreciate that Senator Durbin did this hearing, because I think we've got to start anticipating it and start having these discussions now. I personally don't want to have what happened last time when over a weekend I got, calls from a family in Lebanon who was ready to bring their little baby.
I just don't
that
like
they
his
had
name.
adopted to the
Who
US,
named him
who
Arthur?
stopped,
Is that a real name?
practically at the airport with a little kid with a flag sweatshirt on. And we were eventually able, through officials in the.
Now, however you feel, I want to hear how you feel in the chat. I know what they're talking about. It sounds boring, but it's going to become very important where people stand on this, because what we don't want is our people protesting, our people doing their job. Whatever's going to happen, I'm not going to say we just have to stand there and take it per se, but we're going to have to figure out a way to do this whole thing as peacefully and as quietly as possible. Okay, so they're talking about it. Now, granted, I don't really see a lot of folks from the areas in which these folks are in coming to talk to Congress, but okay.
Border Patrol agents. And this was legislation that I'm sure not everyone agreed with on both sides, but a proposed legislation that
I don't
Senator
agree with what she
Langford
did with her
had
hair this morning.
negotiated,
You had time.
that was supported by a number of people.
You knew you was gonna be on
And
TV.
Hopefully that can be at least a starting point for discussing
I'm sorry.
it,
Let me
even
be
though it
nice.
didn't go anywhere last year. And that was, increasing ICE detention capacity. It was looking at increasing border management.
I mean, it sounds like we're going to have some
and
jobs
we're taking
available.
a lot of grief for
I hate
my
to say
support
it that
for
way. We're going to have some jobs
authorization and
available
adding
for people
resources to
doing,
law enforcement, which I think is so necessary
the
with,
work to get
the
people out, then the
fentanyl
work to them
issue.
people
But I think
leave.
that
I mean,
there's
with
a
the
way. I know
job
that in
market
that
about to open up,
agreement, that
Q1 about to
proposal
be
that
that.
was made, as well as the proposal, that Senator Rounds
sorry.
negotiated, that Senator Graham has been involved in the past on path to citizenship for Dreamers, on doing something about the temporary status people, on looking at people who have not committed crimes and what we can do to make sure our workforce is strong. I think there is a path here. And
Yeah, why don't we just talk about it?
On where we can go. And I would ask
Like,
you, Mr.
let's start with the
Curry, your story
criminals.
was,
Let's just
moving
peel
in
the
its own
onion.
way.
I just think it's a
You
more
lived in the
gentle
US for
approach.
21 years.
Just throwing everybody
You're
on the
now
list and
married to an
kicking
American
indoors is a
citizen,
little
have an
dangerous.
18-month-old
But you start with the guys that are
son
already
who's
locked
also a
up that
US
need to go
citizen.
anyway.
And I watched the President-elect's
I don't know.
interview on Meet the Press this
I'm gonna let this run for a second because I
weekend,
wanted
and
y'all to
he
hear
did
this
talk
with me because
about
I
working
just,
with Democrats
I be
on the
bored by
Dreamer
myself
issue, which I
sometimes. So
appreciated.
thank you
And
for
at the same
jumping
time that
on.
He talked about the only way not to break up a family is you keep them together and then you send them all back. I'm not certain he meant that with Dreamers, but what would happen to your family if you were sent back?
Obviously, the family would be
My
upset.
family would face serious consequences.
Yeah, no
As I
shit.
noted in my testimony, my wife is a U.S. citizen. Our entire family are U.S. citizens.
Okay.
Not only would this impact me on a personal level, but it would impact the U.S. citizens that have built their lives around me. U.S. citizens.
But
like my
I hate to
mother-in-law,
say it, this guy's
who
not on the
is
list.
Legally disabled and has a.
He's got the
brain
best
tumor
story, though. He
that
sounds
requires
good, but he's not even on the
in
list.
United States. If my wife is not around to care for her, if my wife is not around to be there for her mother, it's gonna cause serious hardship on her life and potentially cause her to lose her life. And also, my brother-in-law has been serving in the Marines since he graduated from high
Exactly.
school. He wants to re-enlist in the Marines next year. However, he has to choose between the love for his country or the love for his mom and come back home and take care of his mom. So not only is this impacting...
Oh, I thought he was
me on
gonna
a
say he had to
personal
choose
level, it's
between coming to
impacting
get me
people
out the
around us
house.
that have built their life around me. I've been in this country for so long, and to think that you can just remove an individual who United States citizens have built their lives around would not cause hardship on other people around them, it's just
But
disheartening.
he's married to an American woman. That's
Mr.
correct.
Melnick, could you go through just one more time?
And his kids are all citizens, and he's been here since he was like 6, 7 years old, and his parents were refugees from Sierra Leone. That doesn't seem like the group we're really talking about here, that as far as the folks that are a problem. I'm just saying. I don't know.
On that group as well.
Maybe
as,
I'm missing it, but that doesn't seem to be the
add
problem.
to that,
Remove
there's
the
also gonna
problem.
be
Don't
more
just remove
border
the people, if that makes sense.
protection, which we know we need.
Yes, Senator. So we estimate that on average, a single deportation costs the U.S. government in today's money slightly under $24,000.
You'll do
So if we're
what?
looking at deporting 13 million
Nope, I
people.
didn't.
that adds up to
$24,000 per person for a plane ticket?
To a solution.
Or a
and
bus
of course
ticket?
here, Just the.
Damn.
I remember when you were talking to Senator Durbin and you talked about if you.
What, are they
focus on
flying
the group
JetBlue?
that we know have criminal records that are still out there, how that kind of cost and what that would be.
We have to run the exact
$24,000.
numbers for you. I'm happy to get
That
those
sounds a
for
lot
you,
like
but it is
bullshit to me. I don't think that should be no
substantially
20
less expensive than what President Trump has repeatedly said he would do, which is
$24,000.
aim to deport every single person here, regardless of whether they have a conviction or not.
Okay, but, so if we could get that and follow up later, because I think that there'd be some widespread agreement that if we're going to start somewhere, for one thing, we
Man,
must begin
let
with
me
the
tell you
most
what.
serious offenders that are out there and get the money set aside for that.
Bricks, I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying, but we got hella planes, and we got planes flying all over the place every day. They ain't got to be there long. A weekend, maybe, but it shouldn't be $24,000 a person. You understand what I'm saying? Per person? To get one person out of here, it costs us $24,000. You know what I could do with $24,000? I could hire someone to get rid of a person for $24,000. You understand what I'm saying? And I mean seriously. That's goofy to me. What is the real fee? Where are they staying?
That's correct.
Fuel costs. Okay, how much is the plane ticket, bro?
It is, sir.
For an average citizen. And if you pack a plane with enough people, they putting in gas money. That's what it's for. But it doesn't cost $24,000 for each person to get from where they at to where they got to go. That's ridiculous to me. That's crazy.
Yes, it is. I've been covering the border for 3 decades, and yeah, it's pretty chaotic.
Would it be fair to say
Hold on, let me turn this back up because this dude be cracking me up
the
sometimes.
southern border is man-made?
It would be fair to say that, sir, based on policies that have been implemented.
Right,
And, that man's
$500 a
name is
ticket,
Joe
bro.
Biden.
Stay in a hotel for a night or two before that. You might spend another stack, and that's a nice hotel, right? That's still not $24,000 to get somebody from here to somewhere else. You see what I'm
Wait in
saying?
line for legal immigration.
No, they don't have to sit for a while. There's a process that they put people through. Drop them
When you
niggas
look at the
off if
benefits
that's
that
what
are
you're
given
going
to
to
people and the speed at
do.
which
Drop
they've
them
been released
off.
into the United
You don't have to
States,
have like when you get somebody out of jail and they got to have a place to stay in order for you to let them out. That's America. Drop their ass off wherever they need to be at and then call that a day and let they folks deal with it.
You believe in open borders,
That's
don't you?
what we talk about for the criminal folks. We don't need to keep them in nothing for an extended period of time.
And it
Go.
makes you
Bye. See ya.
angry.
$24,000 is too much per
President
person.
Trump does
I'm
not
sorry. Let me
believe
let
in open
Kennedy
borders,
talk
does
his
he?
shit real quick.
Senator, I'm not here to discuss.
Wherever
immigration policy.
he said,
I'm
drop
here
them
to
where. I
discuss
don't
whether
give a
or not we
damn.
use the military
Just take
to
them
enforce it.
where they apparently came from,
And it makes you angry.
and you got to drop them off. If they came from Mexico, you send them to Mexico. If they came from wherever, you send them wherever you got to go.
Not in the slightest, sir. Again, I am not.
And
here
most
to
of the ones
discuss
that are
immigration
super
policy.
criminals are already sitting in jails doing exactly what you're talking about and using up money. So they can
Duty,
start there.
honor,
That's first
respect. You
level.
talked about that
You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
in
Senator.
your opening statement.
I ain't trying to be nice. That's not nice.
On October 14th of this year, you went on CNN. I want to read you
Okay.
what you said.
They also have a right to a speedy trial, sir. Titan Brew, thanks for stopping into the chat here. Good to see you. But they have the legal system don't have to move as slow as it does. If you've already been convicted of whatever and you're already supposed to be getting up out of here, that should move smoothly. It's the ones that gray area from people that were here for 20 years and all that. That's the gray area. But if you are already in jail because you committed a crime and they know you're illegal, you can go quick. You don't need to stay long. You don't need a lot with that. You could just, I would say at the most 2 weeks. And if that costs $24,000, that's too much still. Why we being that nice? This has got them staying up in the hotel for 2 weeks while we figure out their flight arrangements. Fuck out of here.
Senator, I am happy to discuss my personal perspective with you separately at any time. That's not the purpose of the hearing today.
Did I read that accurately?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah.
Damn, I missed what he
You think
said.
you're
I'm sorry.
smarter
I was
than
talking
the
about shit.
American people, don't you?
Absolutely not, Senator. I am here to discuss the use of the military as part of this mass deportation.
Well, who we gonna use then?
You think you're more virtuous than the American people, don't you, Jenna?
Uh-oh.
Senator, I am insulted by your comment.
Duty, honor, and respect. You talked about.
Well, Titan Brew, I appreciate the comment. Then they need to tighten that up. They need to Tighten that up. Because that process, there's people that come in and get processed in and out of stuff much faster than that. And they need to just tighten that up. Because if not, you're right, they're going to be just spending money holding people. And we don't necessarily need to do that. In my opinion, we have enough resources and ways to do things, and we don't have to do that. That's just what they do. And you're right, they do that, but they don't have to do that. They just do that.
You agree with what Ms. Moran said?
I don't know. Change is in the air, so if they really want to change it, they can. And nobody's going to want to hear about big bills after a year or so about migration.
23
We're not going to be wanting to hear about how many trillions were spent getting people out of here
Ms. Klobuchar, go well.
when the traffic is better.
You'll extend me the
I'll
time.
give you the same minute I gave to her.
You gave it a
All
minute.
right, anyway, let me let them talk. I'm sorry.
You're using.
I watch you like a hawk, Dick.
Pause.
Mr. Reichlin Melnick, you believe in open borders too, don't you?
I do not, Mr. Kennedy.
Okay. On November 1st, 2022, you tweeted, both Texas and Louisiana have their knives out for black immigrants. Do you remember that tweet?
I don't, but it's quite possible.
What Texans, it's not only possible, it happened. You're not denying it, are you?
No, I'm saying, referring
What
to the
Texans?
context.
Who
I
are you
actually
talking
don't
to?
know the
Who
context.
are you talking to about, who in Texas had their knives out for black immigrants?
Guessing the context, but my suspicion is
Give
that
me
it
a
has to
name.
do the
Give me a
Attorney
name.
General Ken Paxton and
Give
the
me a
Attorney
name.
General of
Give me a
Louisiana.
name. You
I just
don't-
did.
You don't have a name, do you?
I just said Ken Paxton.
You don't have a name, do you? You just said it, did you?
Just said Ken Paxton.
All right, how about,
He did say Ken
Louisiana?
Paxton.
You said
All right, whatever.
Louisiana has its knives out for black immigrants. Who in Louisiana were you talking about?
Again, I'm not certain. That was 2 years ago, and as I'm sure you know, much has happened in the last 2 years.
Well, did you say it?
Again, I do not remember the
But
context,
you don't,
Senator
you
Kennedy.
said somebody had their knives out from Louisiana for black immigrants, but you don't know who they were? You just said it?
I said
You was
the
just
Attorney
talking
General
shit?
of
Is that what you
Louisiana
was
and Texas,
doing?
and I believe this referred to specifically lawsuits brought and arguments that were made in court that the arrival of Haitians.
I'm
Now, oh, you got all the
I'm gonna
details
give you
now,
the
huh?
record.
See?
You know
Thank you
who
very much, Senator. Appreciate
You
it.
smell that?
Attorney General at
I
that
smelled
time
it.
of Louisiana had his knives out for black immigrants. That's your testimony.
Given their
Thank you,
litigation
Senator Kennedy.
conduct, yes.
Senator Hirono.
See, he could have just said that the first time. You see how they be doing, man? That's the bullshit, man.
Over a decade ago, when I first arrived.
Just dragging the man down the street for no reason.
In 2013, we had a bipartisan, comprehensive immigration reform bill that addressed the issues of all of the immigrants who are working in various large sectors of our economy.
These are our
i.e.
elected
in the
officials.
ag
This is- we
sector,
picked
where
all
the
these
Chamber
people.
of Commerce are concerned about what we're doing with immigration policy, where we dealt with the undocumented immigrants who are working and paying taxes for which they get absolutely, they're paying the Social Security, Medicare, they don't get those benefits at all. So we have.
Hold on a
broken
second.
Immigration system. We actually had.
They don't get
the
Social
two
Security, but they take the
senators
tax
who are
for Social
sitting here,
Security?
The chairman.
That's an interesting
and,
system.
the former chair of the committee, who are part of a comprehensive immigration reform. So I don't know why we cannot come to some sort of an agreement to deal with the massive, complex issues that confront us. So that is what I'm calling for. Until we make a commitment to comprehensive immigration reform, pointing fingers at the Biden administration or any other administration is not going to get us anywhere fast. And in fact, every administration has had border enforcement policies. You may not like the policies. For example, I certainly didn't support
So what they gonna do?
the Trump policy of separating thousands of children from their parents
Okay.
without keeping track
Okay.
of who their parents were. All I'm asking for is a rational, reasonable, humane immigration policy.
And that's pretty
So
much what
that
anybody's
was
asking
what
for. So
I thought the comprehensive.
Why don't they
immigration
just
bill in
start discussing
2013 was.
that?
I didn't agree with all of the provisions, but some of us worked really hard on it, and Senator Graham, as I mentioned, was part of that. So that's what I think we ought to be focusing on. Now, a general manner, I'm glad
Yeah,
you're
why
here
aren't they focused
because
on that?
We have a president who has said many times that he intends to use the military to do immigration policies, to effect his immigration policies. And General Manner, you said that that is going to have a very negative impact
Is it?
on readiness, for example, because our military, including the National Guard, they are not trained for immigration enforcement. So
I
as
mean,
the chair currently
who else you gonna get is the question.
Armed
Like, you
Services
telling
Committee's
us the
readiness
thing, but you can't say you're
subcommittee.
not gonna do
I
nothing.
share your concerns. By the way, maybe you can go over again a little bit.
I don't know,
more.
man.
What kind of infrastructure would be needed to enforce immigration deportation on up to 4% of our population? What kind of infrastructure would we need in order to effect that?
I have to defer to the other experts on the panel.
Okay, well, then that would be Mr. Ragnick-Melnick. Am I
Yes.
pronouncing your name? Would you like to go into some of that?
Senator, in order to carry out that form of operation would require hiring tens of thousands of new law enforcement agents, would require building
It goes to
dozens,
jobs
if
I was
not
talking about.
hundreds of new detention centers, hiring thousands of new judges, all at a cost of hundreds of billions of dollars, potentially up to or more than $1 trillion over the course
Okay,
of more than
well,
a
the
decade.
debt is the 100-something trillion,
Do you
so ain't
support
nobody
comprehensive
tripping.
Immigration reform.
Like, it is gonna be expensive, but
Does
I'm just
anybody on
saying,
this
let's
panel
talk about it.
not
Let's
support
talk about the ones that's not the
comprehensive immigration
criminals.
reform that really
Let's
gets
talk
to some
about
of
that.
the,
I don't care
problems
about
that
costs, really.
really addresses
Most people don't.
the
Because we're
issues that
not going to
we're
really
facing?
understand
Any
it.
other panel?
They'll take that
Senator, I
money
have
from
to
wherever.
say,
They come up with money
comprehensive
like it's
immigration
nothing right
reform is
now.
not a defined term, and
Anytime they
as
want $1
with all
billion,
other
it just
issues, we have
magically shows
You
up
can
and
look
gets
at the
sent somewhere.
2013 bill, and that had some of the kinds of, that would be what I would describe as comprehensive. It was not the answer, it is not the be-all and end-all, but it was pretty comprehensive, wouldn't you say?
I was actually on the bench at the time that bill was introduced. I was an immigration judge and not involved in legislation.
Well, it was,
Sorry, I had to-
trust me.
a little
when I
lighting
say that
issue
It was
there.
about as comprehensive immigration reform as we have managed to do in over a decade at this
Okay,
point.
and?
That's more, I think, what we need to do. And I don't think there's anybody here who supports something called the open borders, because as I said, every single administration has had border enforcement policy. You may not agree with all of that. I don't think there's anybody sitting here who supports open borders, whatever the heck that means. But
Oh, we know
all
what that
we
means.
need to,
We know what it
have
means. We
border
know what you're
control.
talking about. But what y'all really
need
gonna
that.
do?
But
They
what are we
just
gonna
talking
do
shit now.
about the 11 million to 13 million undocumented people here who are very much a part of our community.
How
our
you a
fabric
part of the
of
community
many,
and you're
many
not even
communities, not to
documented in the
mention that
community?
there are,
You know what I'm saying? It's all about processes
US
and shit, man.
citizens that are part of their
All of this
families,
stuff
and are
is
we
slow
going to
because they
start
make it slow.
busting them up? What's that going to do? So, before we start throwing out all kinds of so-called solutions, I think
Man,
we need to
ain't nobody
think
worrying about
What are
that.
we going to do to?
Like I said,
have
I'm
a rational,
I'm not
reasonable
with all of it. I don't
immigration
want nobody
policy? That's
kicking in
what I'm
doors
talking
and
about.
grabbing
Thank you, Mr.
kids and slamming them and stuff, and
you, Senator
things
Ramos.
can get
Senator
ugly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank
But
you to each
if
of
the
you
real
for being
concern
here
is
today.
about
Ms.
those
Moran,
folks
I am
like
so
the
sorry
black
for your
dude
loss.
who's been here for a
I know
minute,
that's
then we need to
been
have
very
that
difficult
discussion and not be
time
so
for
worried
you
about
and your
whether or not the
family,
military is
and
going to be
this
called
really is a
upon to have to
season of
deal with
sorrow
some of it.
for you all, and I
They'll be
recognize
supporting and be
that.
supported by
I find it
local
so
law enforcement.
interesting, this open border
But yes,
policy
they
that
would
we've seen
probably
is
need
not
the
a compassionate
military to handle
foreign
certain
policy.
things, even if it was just dropping
I've
people
talked to
off
people
somewhere.
that work with human trafficking and sex trafficking, and what is happening to
Uh-oh.
women and children is abhorrent. And
She got her Christmas colors
we
on.
all are fully aware of that. Mr. Chairman, I appreciated your remark
Mm-hmm.
that we should deport those that are truly a danger to Americans. I think that's accurate. I don't think there's anyone would disagree with that. We've all seen the uptick in violent crimes, such as Ms. Moran and her family.
And the Lake and
have
Riley thing, and
experienced.
yeah, we
And
got
this
it.
is the reason I reintroduced my CLEAR Act this year, which would enable local law enforcement, when they apprehend someone who's in the country illegally, to detain them and then call on ICE to deport them.
Okay.
And then the federal government have to repay that local law enforcement agency for what they've spent in that apprehension, that detention.
There's your
And
$24,000 they were talking about.
we should pass this bill today. And that would be a good thing for this committee to be doing.
He's like, what are you
Pull
talking
it up,
about?
put it on the hotline and run it. Is there anybody on this panel that disagrees with deporting criminal illegal aliens? Raise your hand if you disagree with that. Everybody agrees those that have committed
Okay, now we're
crimes
talking about
against
something.
our citizens should be deported. Mr. Arthur, I want to come to you. Talk for just 1 minute about why it is important that we empower local law enforcement to carry out the job that the federal government has not done.
Well, you actually heard Mr. Reichlin-Melnick talk
Arthur
about
again,
how
this
few
dude.
ICE enforcement removal officers there are. There's always going to be a set number of those individuals. When you allow police officers who are involved in their community, who are the first line, actually putting hands on criminals.
Putting hands on them. That's what he said. They're about to put hands on these criminals. That's going to get chopped up.
That when you talk about immigrant crime, Ms. Morin's situation is horrible. And every crime is horrible. So much of that immigrant crime takes place in immigrant communities. Sanctuary jurisdictions.
That's true. Just like black communities. More of the black crime happens in black communities.
That live in those communities that those criminals are sent back to. So that's why it's absolutely crucial.
I appreciate that. So I think we should move forward with my legislation, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Reichlin-Melnick, I'd like to come to you. I want to talk about some of your tweets. You've
Titan
been
Brew,
active
thanks for
on
stopping in the
X.
chat again, man. For
Here's
real,
one.
you
This
on to
is
something
that
though.
analysis
You on to
that
something.
bears
It's a whole
little
system that's
resemblance to the
broken.
facts. The Remain in Mexico
Because
program
companies
was not
hiring
very
certain
successful. It
folks,
was a human rights
and then
disaster.
that's not being
It fed
enforced, so
people
that
to
makes it so that
cartels
people want to
without
be
much
here because they
impact
think they can
on
work,
border crossings.
and there's a
Plus,
benefit.
Biden
You know what I'm
ended
saying?
when he
So
was
it's not
there
just
when it was barely
shutting down a
used
border and
at
throwing
all.
out some folks that are
So,
currently in
let's
jail. It's a
talk about
whole
that. So,
reform that needs to happen,
Do you
man.
still believe that Remain in Mexico was not very successful?
It wasn't. In fact, it was one of a suite of programs that went into effect in 2019, about 4 or 5 different ones over the course
Do
of
you
about 8
believe
months.
it was a human rights disaster?
Yes, and I can tell you the stories
Really?
of the women sent back by the United
May
States
I
to
please
Mexico
tell
who
you
were
stories
raped in
of
Mexico because
People
I
that
told you she had her
were
Christmas
raped
colors on. You
along
better
the
watch
way,
out.
People that have been
and we sent them
trafficking
back to
and
those
drug
traffickers.
dealers and
Remain in
drug
Mexico
dealers.
gave
Okay.
people to the cartels, and we turned
Remain
our
in
eyes away from
Mexico,
them.
Remain in Mexico was successful, and we all know it. Now, let me talk
It
to
was
you about
not.
another tweet
Uh-oh.
that you put up. There are not 320,000 missing children.
That's
That
correct.
number is a false interpretation of a DHS OIG report that said that 32,000 people who entered as unaccompanied children from 2019 to 2023 were ordered deported for missing court, and ICE failed to file charging documents for 291,000.
Shout to the cameraman on catching that.
That's right.
Now,
That's an accurate
you
description
know,
of the OIG report.
This is
Okay.
a human rights disaster.
Is it?
Because what we have heard is the DHS Inspector General, and what they have testified is that they found 32,000 migrant children did not show up for their court date, and an additional 291,000 migrant children never received notices to appear.
That's correct. That's what my tweet
So it
said.
isn't your
Wow,
testimony
never received
that
notices to appear.
DHS
Like, they
does
never
in
even checked
fact
for 'em after that. They
know
were like,
the
whatever.
whereabouts of every single one of these 320,000 children, and they're just not telling people where these children are.
No, because that's not DHS's function here. It's also Office of Refugee Resettlement.
It
It's
is
not their job to
DHS
go out
and
and find every
ORR.
single people.
It is DHS and ORR.
I
And
guess the
what
broader
we
point is
know,
somebody isn't missing
sir,
if no one's
what
looking
we
for them.
know, what we
Oh,
know.
he said somebody
is
isn't missing if no one's looking for them.
Reports that have been made, reporting even the New York Times, many
Yo,
of
they
these
be crazy
children
on these
are
joints if you
in
really listen to 'em.
abusive situations. They are working in plants, and indeed, DHS says that you've
Coffee
got
Grinder,
this
thanks for stopping in the chat. Much appreciated. Hey, I see what you're saying, though.
migrant children
fines. They got to hold the businesses accountable. If you take away the opportunities that people
Senator
see
Blackburn, they did not say
by
they
being
can't be
here
located.
illegally,
They said
that'll
that
also
they
act
had
as a
not even
deterrent.
attempted
So, like you're saying, it's a it's a whole reform that has to happen. It's not just the military is going to start throwing people out, and that's the end of that. There's a
DHS
whole
report did
nother
not say these
situation
people
going
were
on.
missing. It said that ICE had failed on the job to actually start the court process for them. If ICE
Okay,
followed the
so
court
that's
process,
another
many of
part.
those people
ICE
would be
not
living in
doing the
exact
court
address
process
that ICE
correctly.
told them.
They
It's
got
just
that's
ICE has not
resources. They're gonna have to deal
filed
with it.
documents. It's not that they're missing. And of course, exploitation is very real, and we've called for more labor enforcement to ensure it doesn't happen.
She done pulled her name down. So don't even talk to me. You don't even get to know my name, bro.
Still discussing, debating the struggle to reconnect children who were separated from their parents more than 4 years ago.
Uh-oh.
Today should tell us a lot about what to expect in the next administration. I think it's worthy of further conversation, maybe a different hearing, a different day to focus on that. Just as a reminder for folks that are observing today's hearing.
That one lady just walked out with Christmas colors on.
Stated topic of
Oh,
today's
somebody
hearing
went and
is,
chased her
quote,
down.
how
She said, I'm
mass
tired of this.
deportations will separate American families, harm our armed forces, and devastate our economy. So I will attempt through my questions to bring us back to the focus of this hearing today. But first, I want to
And that's the point of the
notes that
hearing.
I've taken
So
throughout
hold
the
on. I only got so much time left,
in
guys.
Hearing from my colleagues on the committee, the issues they've raised, the questions they've raised.
I got shit to do, you know.
Underscore
I just wanted to catch this while it was on,
how
you know.
complex
Or at least that's what they say it is.
this
Or something.
policy area is. And so it requires thoughtful and nuanced solutions. Senator.
And back to what the coffee grinder had put in the chat, $25,000 fine, if it only happens, once a year and you're making millions and billions, they might just take that. You know what I'm saying? I don't know.
Further stay in the United States after having had their day in court. That sheds light on process, due process,
Right.
often lack thereof.
Okay.
Representation in the process, lack of representation
All right.
in the process. I'm for a process and finality of a process, a finality, an answer.
Yeah. Hey, when I get convicted, I go to jail, and that's the conviction. And if that's
But that requires investment in the process by the federal
regular people go to jail for
and
going to
hearing
when they get
officers
sentenced
and
for something.
Immigration judges. So let's just lay that
You
out.
get sentenced to leave and you don't leave, that doesn't seem right to me.
About tackling the backlogs and the issues. Second, man, if I had a nickel for every time I heard fentanyl in this committee. Serious
Fentanyl.
problem.
Yeah.
Serious problem. But irresponsible in how it's misportrayed so often in immigration conversations.
Because mostly
Fentanyl needs to
it's
be
being
addressed,
made
needs to
here.
be stopped. Its illegal importation needs to be tackled. But if we're going to do it thoughtfully and seriously, let's look at what the Customs and Border Protection.
Hey, thanks, Coffee Grinder,
Agency
man.
tells
Thank you.
us.
Or ma'am, I don't know. You
80%
never know these days. No
individuals
disrespect or anything. There's just no picture.
And convicted for bringing fentanyl
Thanks for
into
stopping
this
in the
country
chat, man. Thanks
are
for the
United
new sub.
States citizens. Happy to share the link, folks. Happy to share the report. So if that's a concern, then let's address the heart of the concern and not just use it as a soundbite to further attack immigrants.
Yeah, but that's more of a drug thing. And fentanyl is not all made in Mexico, first of all.
Way down. People talking about this crisis at the border.
They make that stuff here.
We always need to do more.
This is the U.S. #1 import.
Orderly and humane border. But some of these numbers that are being tossed around are not what's happening.
Yeah, it sounds like
today
bullshit.
because of President Biden's policies this last year. So let's be intellectually honest with ourselves and the public. Now, that being said, Mr. Reckland-Melnick, you're pretty popular today. I have a question for you as well. As you know, and you've referenced the largest mass deportation.
He sounds like he's got a whole frog's ass in his throat. I thought it was my sound at first, but
in my opening statements. During that operation, more than 500,000 Mexicans and many United States citizens were deported. And as far as anybody can tell, Operation Wetback did not achieve
Operation
its intended
Wetback.
effects of increasing employment rates or wages.
Operation Wetback. That is so racist.
Said that he planned to
That's funny as hell, though.
on
Operation Wetback.
Now, you testified today about the expected negative economic impacts
Operation
of deportation,
Wetback.
including the rising costs of food. Some estimates say food prices are going to go up 19% based on this alone. In what world does food become cheaper with mass deportations?
Mass deportations would not cause food prices to become cheaper. The exact opposite would occur. In fact, a single worksite raid in 2018 under the Trump administration at a beef plant in Tennessee led to ground beef prices
That's
rising
what
by 25
Coffee
cents
Grinder was talking
for
about.
the year that the plant was out of operation following the raid.
I mean, I'm not with the whole we can't take care of this because, it's like it's a mess to clean up a mess, man. And you can't expect, it's not going to be smooth because we let it get out of hand. That's why these companies are being fined for all of this, man. People are coming over here in droves because there's work here. So you got to start with the whole thing, and you got to come for these businesses and then take their little assets and break it down to the small businesses like mine that actually need the funding and can't get it because these larger businesses already have business credit. We ain't gonna talk about that right now.
As to all my colleagues, about how easy it is for them to recruit United States citizens to do the work in the fields. And let me tell you how easy it is. It is not. There's a reason that the agricultural industry relies on immigrants, including so many undocumented immigrants, to help keep the food supply chain going, keep food on the tables of American families.
I am not with that whole narrative sounds like bullshit to me.
For the recruitment.
Because we set it up all messed up, we got to keep it going messed up. That just, I don't like that whole argument.
Senator Booker did.
Since we built it up, I mean, it's like the whole slavery thing. Since we built it up on that, we got to keep doing it. That wasn't what happened. You know what I'm saying? We built up the country on slavery. We got to keep doing it in order to keep the country going. And then they started a whole civil war over that. Because of industry. Same argument. It's the same argument.
It was overnight.
And slavery had to stop. So and we adjusted.
Undocumented workers work across the agricultural
I don't want to hear that
from
shit.
Picking crops in the field.
Then why they don't take care of their paperwork? These businesses are making millions. Make the businesses take care of it then. This is bullshit.
And these are workers that without them, our food supply would drastically diminish.
Now we won't have food. Are you kidding me? Man, y'all dumb.
Of course, that's not true. Americans have done those jobs in the past, but it could take decades before we got enough workers to replace the experience.
No, it wouldn't. I thought we had an unemployment rate. See, this is the goofy.
20, 30 years.
Man, I can find 10 guys right now.
And would cause severe impact to the U.S. food supply.
Thank you, Senator Padilla.
Violent criminals, let's go after them.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like I said, if this is the U.S., we make everything here. Why do we have to have everybody come over here to make stuff that we could make here? If we making all of the stuff and we're the ones doing the work, I don't see that as being a problem. They built it wrong, and now we got to let it be because you built it that way. That's stupid. I hate that argument. I think that's so stupid. We already got them here, so if we can't do nothing now, yeah, you can do some things. You can't do everything. You can do certain things, though. So do those things.
Elected a new president in large part to secure the border and deport people who came illegally under their predecessors.
You keep saying illegally, so let's start with that and not be worrying about that other shit.
How many illegal immigrants being deported by the new administration would you find objectionable? Mr. Melnick, I'll ask you,
Objectionable.
1 million?
I think 1 million would be a disaster.
2 million?
Again, considering we're talking about law-abiding people who've been here for decades.
But that's not what they're talking about.
It would have severe negative ramifications for the United States.
3 million?
Same answer.
5 million?
Same answer.
So it don't matter, is what he's saying. You just going to...
or moral to deport any illegal immigrants?
Yes, I'm not a supporter of open borders, as I said before.
Okay, so who were you talking about then?
I'm curious what your position was back during the Obama administration when that's exactly what he did. I'm not reading what Trump intends to do. I'm reading exactly what President Barack Obama did when he came into office and deported nearly 5 million people. Or
Got him.
in excess of 3 million people. So at that time, were you involved politically or in this space at the time that Obama was here? How old were you back then?
I was a graduate of law school and was working at the time.
Were you opining on deportations at that time?
I was not.
Do you believe that President Obama made a grave, horrible, inhumane mistake by deporting those folks?
Well, it wasn't
That
5
came
million
in under the
people.
Bush administration?
It wasn't 5 million people. When we're looking at
It was over 3
internalized
million,
deportations.
so let's not split hairs.
Actual numbers are closer to 1.5 internal ICE deportations.
He still said a million was too much.
So you said President Obama was immoral and inappropriate to deport those million people. Is that what I heard you say?
There were many people that
it's
were
a yes,
deported.
no
under his
question.
Here we go with the
administration that should not have
bullshit.
been.
Here they go.
I don't normally get into these antagonistic sorts
Exchanges,
of discussions
yeah.
here, but it needs to be said.
Yeah, they
because,
be dodging the questions all the
just
time. I couldn't do that job, man. I'd be the dude in there. They'd have to escort me out every damn day. Be like, but he was talking that shit.
Level in the U.S. in U.S. history, women couldn't vote. The infant mortality rate was 165 per 1,000, and the average life expectancy was 47.
Damn.
And we also had quasi-open borders. That part wasn't bad. So let me tell you what I tell everyone who comes in this room and has the polarizing testimony, sir, that you have had. You're a part of the problem. I'm a part of a group of people here who have said, as the president did, incidentally,
Hold
on
up,
Sunday,
he gets the
believes
boom
there
for
should be a
that.
path for dreamers. We're
He
demonizing
gets a
President
boom for
Trump
that.
for something he may or may not do, but he has said to his Republican
You a
base,
part
he
of the
believes
damn
that there should
problem.
be certainty for dreamers.
Right.
He's also said that we have to have a secure border. And as long as the border is not secure, people like me who try to treat people who are in the state that they are here with respect and understanding some of the issues that
Well, this
Mr.
guy's
Padilla
cooking
brought
right
up,
now.
you cause people to go into their corners and get nothing done. That is why Chair Durbin has not been able to fulfill the promise on Dreamers every single year he's tried for the last 20, because people like you make it impossible to have let me finish, and then I'll let you speak as long as the chair wants to, have a rational discussion about it. Because if we don't secure the border, I can't get a path to citizenship for the DACA population. If we don't secure the border, I can't get Democrats and Republicans to come together and give certainty to the dreamer population. Are there any dreamers in the room? Raise your hand if you are.
He called him out.
Well, this is a part of the problem, ladies and gentlemen. You have an incoming Republican president who just said as late as Sunday that he's prepared
He did say
to
it.
give you certainty.
I'll give you that.
But we have people here demonizing him for asking the reasonable question of, can't we all agree that we need to secure the border? So if you are sincerely, I don't know how you make your money. I don't care what your political motives are. But number one, I would really appreciate it to say, if you would go out on social media and say that the President Obama did a horrible disservice to those people he deported, and he's as wrong-minded as every other Republican who said we've got to secure the border, deport people. Because you can't have one being okay and the other one not being okay. Don't come to the table and recognize in a world where, 100 years ago, it was probably safe to have a quasi-open border.
This dude is grilling right now. He needed an apron on.
But today, we have terrorists that can fly from the Middle East, land in Mexico, and come across the border in less than 24 hours.
Right.
We're not living in Ellis Island anymore. We've got a problem that can't be solved, and people like you are creating more obstacles to people like me who are willing to take hits from my own party to satisfy what people like Donald Trump want to get done. Thank you.
First of all, I want to thank all of the witnesses. I think we're actually going to start making progress on securing the border. And
Maybe.
On a
I don't think so. I don't think they got to anything today. I've taken up an entire hour of my time
who I know are here.
hearing the same stupid argument.
My respect for
It's like an all or nothing argument. That's the problem. And instead of just saying, look, we got different layers to this,
As I've listened to my
Trump already said
colleagues,
he was cool on the Dreamers and he was going to work something out with them because he wants them here. I heard it on the CBS interview he did with the little Kristen, whatever her name was. I heard it. So that's not just no media BS. I heard the conversation. So he did say that.
Doesn't have a control over its border.
For anyone that doubts that.
Second.
So stop saying the bullshit because he
broad
said it enough
consensus
times
that
now.
Criminals who are here should be deported.
Let's talk about the real shit.
Ms. Moran, I just want to acknowledge, as we all have, the incredible life you've had, the loss of your daughter and your own experience. People who do that, they shouldn't have gotten in and they shouldn't be here. And if they are here.
Thanks, Coffee Grinder. Appreciate the positive feedback. Appreciate the love, man.
We have the question.
We're doing a little different over here, you know?
Whose status has been determined, but it took so long for that status to be determined, in many cases, years.
See, now they're talking about it. It's taking too long for this shit to happen.
Part of their community, and they put roots down here, and they haven't committed a crime. This is where we don't have consensus.
Right.
There's a view among some, and I think the President-elect Trump has this view, that if you are here illegally, no matter how long it took for that adjudication to occur, and no matter what your roots are, then you should go back. Senator Graham was indicating a view that if you've been adjudicated, fair is fair and you should go back. There's another point of view, and that is that if you have been here, and we had a system that didn't adjudicate in any kind of timely way, and you have been working, I'll put it in very specific terms, on a farm in Vermont for 7 or for 8 or for 9 years.
Right.
And you become a contributing member to the community and the economy. There's another approach one could take where you might pay a fine. You might have to
you pay a fine.
make
Okay.
amends for
What
the
you got?
fact that you came here illegally, but there'd be an acknowledgement of the contributions you've made, the roots you've established, and what the harm to the community would be. And that certainly would be the case in Vermont, just speaking about agriculture. I just can't imagine, actually I can't imagine, I've talked to some farmers who, if they lost their labor, would lose their farm because cows don't milk themselves. And they
Here we go with the same argument. We built it on the bullshit, so we got to let the bullshit continue. I just don't like that argument. It's dumb.
For us to find common ground and get something done that is securing the border, that is deporting criminals, that is making judgments about allowing people the option of paying a fine, where there would be a deterrent as long as we have a secure border. You know, Ms. Moran,
I mean, it's a soft approach, but I see what he's saying.
You've suffered so much, and I want to express to you my gratitude.
He's doing some, let everybody who's here pay some money and don't let nobody else come on in. That's his take on the shit.
If we had a secure border, you're advocating for that. If we have, and that keeps criminals out, right? Would it be in conflict with what you think would be a reasonable outcome for, like, dreamers, for instance, folks who
Why do we keep talking about the
parents,
dreamers?
who've not committed any crime, who've become parts of the community?
But that's not who they're talking about. That's what I'm saying, man. This is, you fucking waste my time with this. We've already covered this 80,000 times in the last 48 hours.
A couple of things from listening
to
everyone speak.
Thank you.
One, as an American citizen and not a politician, so I don't know all the ins and outs, but just what I'm hearing is the bottom line is profit. To an American citizen,
Here she go.
They're hearing you're putting lives, you're putting profit above American lives.
Here she go. She about to cook.
That's for me personally. Our country is made of immigrants. We have 250 years or more of immigrants.
This is what I was just
who come to
saying.
This country and have built the country to what it is.
She's going to say exactly what I just said.
And we are descendants of those immigrants. The issue is having an open border that allows an invasion of people that compromises our national security because our borders, we don't have enough border agents to stem the flow of immigrants, but then also they bypass the law to speed up them coming in, and in doing so, they miss all the criminals that are coming into our country. So I think we need to put those laws back into place and to practice so we can catch them at the border. And then I think that we should work towards those that have come to the country. If it's illegal, the very word itself means
What I'm saying,
unlawful.
it's a problem. I go to jail. I got to serve whatever time when I get sentenced for
Come to
something.
America
I just don't see why
in an
no.
unlawful way.
Yeah, man.
There has to be some kind of a line, a precedence of what is lawful and what isn't lawful.
I thank you for that. I mean, the heart of, at least as I hear what you're saying, is that we have to have a secure border in the first place.
Yes.
Yeah, well, thank you again. My time is up, and I'm going to, are you next? Polly? Senator from Missouri.
With the idea of actually, as you were just saying, Ms. Morin, the idea of enforcing our laws, protecting our border, securing our streets from
He about to
criminals,
say it
it's amazing
exactly
that
how I
that's
said it.
controversial at all.
This
And
Hawley
it says
guy's
something
kind
a
of
lot
funny.
about the other side of the dais that we're having this hearing today. Let me just ask you, Mr. Reichlin-Melnick, I mean, is it really such a bad idea to deport people like the criminal who killed this young man? This is Travis Wolf. He was 12 years old
Here we go.
when he was killed. He was mowed down, and I do mean mowed down, in a car by an illegal immigrant, 12 years of age, walking along a sidewalk in my state of Missouri, mowed down by an illegal immigrant who I think also had a prior criminal record. Is it such a bad idea to deport the person who killed him?
Any person who commits a heinous crime should suffer the consequences under the law.
Good. What about
Just say
Officer
yes.
David Lee?
You see what I'm saying?
Officer David Lee was killed in Missouri just a few months ago by another illegal immigrant, once again in a car, who used it as a lethal weapon to ram him and kill him. Is
I
it
remember
so
that story.
wrong, such a bad idea to deport the illegal immigrant who killed
Or no, or
this
whatever.
good
Yes.
man?
Again, any person
See,
who commits.
I hate when they do that. Just say,
should
no,
face the full
we
force
can
of
get
the
rid of
law.
that guy.
Never said
Multiple
otherwise.
stabbings in the state of Missouri at laundromats in O'Fallon, Missouri, where innocent
They
civilians
stabbed
were
them over
going to
quarters
do
in
their
Missouri.
laundry of an evening and were
Missouri.
attacked with knives, slashed, bled, stomped upon. Should the illegals who did that, should they not be deported?
No, as I said, if you commit an offense, you should face consequences. But the overwhelming majority of the 13
We've
million
had
people
officers
here
assaulted
today
in
have
Kansas
not
City on the
committed
other side
any
of the
offenses.
state who have been assaulted by illegal immigrants. One officer required over 100 stitches to the head, a police officer, earlier this year. Should the illegal immigrant who did that not be deported?
Again, they should face the consequences of the law, but they are a very small minority of the population that President Trump is promising to deport.
Well, let's talk about
Special shouts,
the rest
Yvonne,
of the people
stopping in
who
the
you
chat.
don't want to be
Appreciate you.
deported.
That's a good
You
point,
said
though.
in an
Where is
article that you
BLM when it
wrote
comes to this,
recently,
right? When it came to that officer, they didn't have nothing to do with black, because it wasn't a white person killing a black person. That's the only time Black Lives Matter is when
So in this
it's a
piece,
white
and
person.
Also in your
That's
written
it.
testimony, you talk about how much
Ain't
the
no money in
economy
nothing
would
else.
lose if the United States actually enforces our immigration laws.
Okay.
And deports folks who are here illegally. And I want to quote you now. You say some industries would be particularly hard hit, including
See, here we
construction,
go.
agriculture,
I'm
and
telling you,
hospitality.
I don't like
which
that
combined would
argument.
lose
I
more than
hate that
2.5
argument.
million
I see where they're coming from. We're not going
What's
to do
the
the whole,
argument here? That
because
there
we
are
built the
American
shit on
workers
some
who are
wrong
able
shit.
to do the
We got to
job?
let it be what it
As I
is.
said
No,
previously,
you
there
shouldn't have done
likely
that.
are, but the issue is that
And you
would
don't
cause
want their wages to
decades.
rise?
I think that we want to pass a path to citizenship so we can have a level and fair playing
Why
field.
would
So
for
that the
everyone.
rich guys that own these companies can keep making way more money than they need to, while other people don't really make no money? I mean, it is what it is, but come on, man, let's be real.
Minimum wage, who are not given the federally mandated
Right.
benefits
Let's go.
precisely because they're here illegally.
Let's go,
Why would
Hawley.
you wanna
Talk that
drive
shit,
down
boy.
The wages of millions of working Americans who can't get those jobs in construction, agriculture, and hospitality because illegal immigrants are getting them. Suppressing wages in the meantime. Why would you want to do that?
Well, if you didn't hear from my initial testimony, you know I don't want
Oh,
that.
listen, I
want
read your
exploitation
testimony word for
to
word, and
avoid-
I've been watching it, and I
And
know
it's
what the answer
bullshit.
is.
Yeah.
You don't actually care about working people because you're absolutely hell-bent on this ideological agenda of opening our border. You want to give everybody who's here a path to citizenship. You want blanket amnesty. You talk about mass deportations.
Yeah. That's
your
what he's
word, not
saying.
Trump's. You want mass amnesty. Right. It's right here in your testimony.
We want a path to citizenship for
That's
people
amnesty.
who pass a background check, who pay a
That's
fine.
amnesty, who you
and
just
that
said
way
there's
we'll get
millions
a
of people,
level
13
playing
million people. Right, 13 million people you want to dump into the labor force.
They are
Who
already
will
in the
drive
labor
down,
force,
illegally they're here,
Yes,
taking jobs
so
from
let's
American
make it
citizens and selling.
legal and avoid
Perfect.
this.
So here's your plan. So just if you're wondering, America, here's the Democrats' plan.
Here we go.
Take the 13 million plus illegals who are here, taking jobs from Americans, taking wages down, taking health care benefits, and bring them here legally so that they can continue to drive down wages, flood the labor force, and suppress.
That's exactly what I was saying.
They're already part of the labor force, which is
They
the
are
economic
flooding the
issue
labor
today.
force now. That's what's happening now. Why
The
do you think
majority
wages
have been here for
flatlined?
over 15 years. Many millions have been
And
here
what has
since the
happened to
Reagan
working class
administration.
wages in that time, Mr. Reichlin-Melnick?
Working
Have
class
they
wages
gone
are
up?
He got a
currently going
point,
up.
man. I can't disagree with what he's talking
Over
about.
the
They're
last
up.
15 years, I will have to consult the economists on that matter.
Yeah, they're down, way down. What world do you live in? Listen,
Senator-
He said, "Who
listen, here's
raised
the
you,
deal.
bro?"
The American people just voted. The American
Cut off your
people
nose to
just
spite your
voted.
face.
You know what? It's my time, not yours.
Uh-oh.
So you're here to answer my questions, not to offer
Ooh.
a soliloquy. And let me just end with this.
Yeah.
The American people just got a good
He
look
got
at
his
your
hand up like he
economic
gonna
program,
smack him.
And they voted against it. We've had an open border for the last 4 years. We have had de facto amnesty.
He got a
as
little
you yourself
smegma on
just
his
said,
lip,
for the
though.
last 15 plus
Ted
years.
Cruz, get
It
that
has been
for
a
him.
disaster. People have died because of it. Wages are lower because of it. Our streets are in chaos because of it. And now you and the Democrat Party just say more of the same, more of the same. Let's double down. I would just say to you, I think that's insanity. I think it's total insanity, and the American people do too.
I'm about to get out of here in a second, but we just. Hold on. What happened? Hold on. Oh. Okay. He silenced the whole room on them dudes.
For the last 4 years, we have seen the most radical experiment in open borders this nation has ever seen.
All right. After Cruz, I'm gonna chill
There are
out.
many
I'm gonna
reasons
chill out.
the American people showed up in overwhelming numbers to vote.
They know how to do their
re-elect
lineup. They know who to
Donald
put on
Trump, to elect
first
a
and then
Republican
get
majority of
into
the
it
Senate, to
later.
elect a Republican
Like a
majority of the
batting
House.
order.
There's no reason more front and center than the open borders of the last 4 years. And I have to say, I think there were a number of us wondering, did any of the Democrats in Congress learn anything from the election? And the existence of this hearing makes very clear the answer is no.
Y'all didn't learn nothing. That's what he's saying.
We've seen 12 million people.
Hey, thanks for stopping in,
into this
Coffee Grinder.
country
Appreciate
illegally
that.
under Joe Biden.
Appreciate that. I'll see you in the next one.
My home state of Texas has seen more
Like
than
I said, I got to let them cook a little bit because I want to see
There's
what
a
they talk
reason.
about.
that the Rio Grande Valley, which has been Democrat for over 100 years, flipped
Yeah,
red
you're right.
this election. Because when
Vaughn,
your
they got
home is
tactics.
invaded by more
It's
than
smart.
12
It's like they
million
ramp
people,
up to it. It's
changes
very
your voting
impressive if you really look at it.
Every single day, we have seen Americans murdered. We have seen women raped.
Go ahead. Let's stoke the
We have
fires.
seen children brutalized
Mm.
by criminal, illegal aliens released deliberately by Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
Uh-oh. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris went and opened the doors for him.
According to ICE, as of
Here we go.
July 21st, 2024, nearly 650,000 criminal illegal aliens were currently on ICE's non-detained docket, which means they've been released. They're wandering around, they're free. And of those 650,000, 14,944 have been convicted of homicide. You want to know what mass deportation is? Those 14,944 better pack their bags right now.
Oh!
Because with a new administration, we're going to show up, we're going to arrest you, and we are going to
The
deport you.
little Chinese guy on the side, or Asian,
20,061
guy on the
have
side.
been convicted
He's like,
of
oh,
sexual
shit.
assault. Now, I want you to ask
I'm in the
of
camera
my
shot.
Democrat colleagues, and it is striking that virtually none of them are here.
Oh, they didn't show up?
That is reflected in their conduct because they are silent and putting their head in the sand as to the human tragedies.
Wow, the
But
Democrat
what
folks aren't there?
president of what blue state says, you know what, America's better off with 20,000 rapists being released into this country?
Oh.
105,146 have been convicted of assault. I would ask my Democrat colleagues if they were here, why the hell today
Okay.
does the Biden administration not go and arrest every one of these criminals and deport them?
Good question.
Rational world says America's better off with more criminals. And these are not just statistics.
You're going to put up the pretty white girls. Don't do that.
Ms. Moran, thank you for being here.
That's like putting up, do you know how they put up puppies and certain things? And it's like, oh, yeah, man. That's sad, though. Like, if you think about it, if our immigration policy can stop, you know, pretty little white girls from getting killed, we definitely need to look in that. I mean, nobody wants them to be getting hurt.
Release a violent criminal into America.
Yeah. It's sad. That's all I'm saying.
Still be alive.
Yeah, she should be.
And every one of these victims should still be alive.
And shouts to Fox News for running this live with me. I appreciate that.
The Democrats on this committee can't bring themselves to utter. Should still be alive.
I know they got 5,000 people or so on their live, but it's cool. I'm a small channel having a big fun time right now with y'all. Thank you for stopping in.
Alexis is incredibly brave. I cannot imagine the pain. I'm a father.
I couldn't imagine it. I would be trying to get rid of everybody. Like, I wouldn't even care. I would definitely be off my rocker if that was my daughter that got,
children should bury their
you know, unalived by some random, you know what I'm saying? Yep, pulling on them heartstrings. You got it.
But I want to say to you,
every
thank
time
you for having the courage to tell Rachel's story. I would understand if you just curled up in a ball and cried.
This lady about to cry too.
But, and I'm sure you have wept a lot of tears. But thank you for having the courage to tell Rachel's story. And I want to say, if there is anything that is a mandate from this election, it is to end this insanity, stop these murders, stop these rapes, stop these assaults, protect our citizens. And Ms. Moran, I just want to give you the opportunity at the end of my questioning to share from your perspective why this matters, why we should stop releasing criminals into America.
That's pretty obvious. I'm not making it funny, but that's why should we stop releasing criminals into the population? Because they're committing crimes, like these pretty little white girls they had on this thing over here, and that's not right. That's not right. And I'm not saying if they were black girls, I would have said pretty little black girls. That's what I would have said. So just understand, I'm not racist like that. I think the problem is they're killing these little girls and young women. Lake and Raleigh situation should have never happened. That's crazy. And they released this guy into the community.
By a stranger.
That's what they're talking about.
Times. This is the culture, and I realize it's not all immigrants.
It's not. We know that. Okay.
This is the culture that they come from, this kind of violence. They grow up in it in their countries. To them, it's just part of what they've known for their
Par
lives.
for the course,
But to bring
I guess.
that,
I mean, that's a bold statement, but she's not running for office, so nobody will bring her back on that.
it's destroying our families. I know of women in my hometown that have come up to me because they know I'm Rachel's mom and say to me,
No, sorry, that was an unexpected boom.
and try to pull me down to the ground. And if it wasn't for the fact that I could fight them off and run to a store to call the police, I might not be here. And in one incident, that man had attacked 7 other women.
I mean, it's a sad situation, man.
And then the women and children that are raped, and because they're so ashamed of what's happened to them, how they've been so violated, they don't say anything. So the numbers are grossly underestimated, I believe, as far as the crimes that are happening in our country. And I think we need to stop this.
Thank you very much. I appreciate all the witnesses appearing before the committee today. There are obviously many questions asked about the mass deportation.
Well, they got places to go. He made a cameo. Hawley came in with Cruz and made a cameo. Look at them walking out with their cards. Like, yeah, I said my shit.
I believe the magnitude of that statement is growing in the mind of the president-elect, Mr. Melnick, you certainly allude to that in terms of the number of personnel and the cost to our nation. Bottom line still is we have no tolerance for keeping dangerous people here.
Okay.
Who come to this
Here you
country
go.
and ask to be made citizens. And we certainly have no interest in a policy that allows them to come across the border with impunity. But the mass deportation includes not only that possibility of stopping those people, but an impact on Mr. Toure and his family.
No,
I think most
not.
of us would agree that a man who's given his life to criminal prosecution is of value to us based on what Ms. Moran just mentioned. And I think we should go forward with that in mind. Let's be thoughtful and reflective and do things that make America safer and are consistent with our values. The hearing record will remain open for 1 week for additional materials to be submitted. And with that, the meeting of this committee stands adjourned.
All right. Well, for those of y'all that just tuned in, we just got finished listening to some senatorial types talking their stuff about the Trump mass deportation plan. And in that, there was a lot of rhetoric. A lot of people didn't catch it. I'm gonna close it out in just a second because I just wanted to hear it myself, because I get tired of watching any hearings where they keep bringing up the same point that's already been dealt with, and then that's like the thing they're trying to run on or trying to exploit. I don't like when they do that. And in this Trump situation, you know, because I'm going to be critical of whoever. The smoke is not discriminatory, okay? So I've been paying attention to see what he was talking about. And I just saw the interview on, I want to say CBS, 60 Minutes or whatever the hell it was last night. He talked to that nice little lady, and the same question was asked. And he was very specific about saying he wants the Dreamers to be here. He's sure there's something we can work out. That's one of the most important things, to make sure that we don't have that be a problem. Like, he very much left no question about how he feels about that group of people. And the African dude that was there, was one of those people. Married with children. He was brought here when he was a kid. He's a lawyer now and all that kind of stuff. And everybody said, we ain't talking about you, in their own way, right? But every time they would come back to that one dude with the glasses, the other guy with the glasses, it was like he always was trying to talk about them. And nobody just wanted to say, yo, stop talking about that. Because that's not what we're here to talk about. What we need to be talking about is whether or not the military being utilized in the mass deportation is the problem. That's what the hearing was supposed to be about. All they want to focus on is something that's not going to happen. And you're not going to get me again, media and whoever the hell else, and have me looking at something for 3-4 years that ain't even going to happen like that. Ain't even going to be like that, right? I can smell the bullshit. I see it. Okay, I appreciate it. Appreciate that they put it up for us to look at. I appreciate everybody that stopped into the chat with good comments, good conversation, good commentary, man. That's what I'm here for, because I like to make sure I am not the only person that can smell out and see this bullshit that they be feeding me on a daily basis. We are not talking about the African doctor. Trump is not talking about the African doctor. Okay, so why spend 2 hours talking about people in that category as an issue when that's not the issue? The issue is them telling you it's going to cost $24,000 to get every individual criminal person who's already had their day in court and has been asked to leave and maybe has come back or had never left. $24,000 per person to get them out of here. Let me tell you what. Just for the sake of argument, we're just going to say $25,000 because there's some taxes on there. We'll just throw that on there, right? So for $25,000, I'll tell you what. You give me $25,000, I can get rid of 20 people easily. Maybe 25. Matter of fact, I can get rid of 25 people with $25,000 in less than 72 hours. And yeah, we can do all this. We can have this conversation about because they're on American soil, they are allowed to have a constitutional process and due process of law and all of that. But I'm just saying, if they put out an executive order that goes against that for a certain class of people who are not here legally, who are not necessarily under that same constitution, because they haven't pledged allegiance to none of that shit. So why do we have to extend that courtesy if they haven't even connected to that? You see what I'm saying? I don't think we should do that. I think we need to just be real. Let's stop talking about the DACA dreamers and all those folks, because it's been said 17,000 times in the last 48 hours. That ain't who they talking about. Okay? So let's stop talking about that. Let's figure out how the military use is really going on. Like, are we talking about trucks driving down the street with guys on the back with guns? Or are we talking about people are being dropped off at military bases and flown and dropped off with big military airplanes, like Con Air type of big-ass airplanes, cargo planes? Maybe we're talking about that, because that's still military involvement, but that's not people kicking in the door, waving in the 4-4. You know what I'm saying? So I think we need to be transparent. They need to be transparent if they're going to come on my damn screen for 2 hours and talk. I don't appreciate when people don't answer yes or no questions correctly when they're in front of the Congress people, because they be asking basic questions sometimes, and the person always want to give them some bullshit answer. That's a waste of time. It's disrespectful. It's disrespectful. So I'm not going to waste anybody else's additional time. I know everybody's got something to do today, but I had to stop in with y'all because I wanted to have a conversation while that was going on, just so I can make sure that I'm not missing anything. But I want to say this. I want this to be the last time they bring up the Dreamers, unless they're willing to put forth policy specifically about them. If they're going to bring it to the floor, the discussion needs to be on a bill that they've put together about how they're going to deal with that. But if you keep trying to wrap them up into this other thing that enough people have said that's not who we talking about, now it seems disingenuous, and now I'm not listening to you no more. Because I know, and anybody that's watching this video knows, that, my friends, is the bullshit.